So the steps that I'm going to walk through are exactly the steps on how we paid off over $212,000. And I'm going to be putting that back into perspective of how that relates to you in the EMS world. The first step in owning your zone, so taking extreme ownership in everything, is really learning how to manage your margins. And by margins, I simply mean this. Margins is the space between you and chaos. It's that space, that margin of space. Does anyone know what a Ironman triathlon is? Yeah. So tell me what is involved in an Ironman. Just yell it out. Yeah. Bike, swim, run, right? When I signed up for my first triathlon, mini triathlon, my husband looked at me and he said, "Do you even know how to bike or swim, Jen?" I'm like, hello? I did that as a kid, of course I do. But I found out that things like swimming 2.4 miles is a little bit different than swimming at the beach to get my towel. Or riding on a road bike was much different than riding on a kid's bike. And when I started road biking, one of the things that I found out is that road biking has a really narrow margin. There's not much room for error when you're riding on those little tires. So things like balance can be a big thing. Well, after falling over for about the third time on my new road bike before my first triathlon, I thought, you know what? I need to get help on learning how to ride a bike. So I went out and found the most awesome team that I knew of in the area. It was a group of gentlemen, about 10, 15 folks that rode together. And these guys had ridden together forever. They had road biked forever. So I said, hey, you guys, can I join your team? Can I ride with you? And they said, of course, Jen. We were friends. So after our first biking episode together, I'll never forget, my leader looked at me, who's a very logical thinker. He's very quiet, but he looked at me and he said, wow, you talk a lot. So I thought, all right, well, maybe I do, but I'm still going to learn from you. So over the next year or so, I rode with this group of guys, and I taught them how to chit-chat, and they taught me how to ride. So it was a win-win. But after about a year or so, my team asked me if I would join them on a bike race, 2-day bike race. And I thought, whoa, you're asking me to be on a team? Hello, I've never played a team sport before. I was so honored and so excited that my mentors, the mentors that I looked up to, the mentors that taught me everything about riding, would ask me to be on their team. And so when the day of the race came, it was really exciting. I thought, wow, I get to be with my mentors. Like, I'm on the team with them. I'm finally, we're like the same. And so as we went through our 150-mile race together, I'll tell you that the first 149.9 miles of that race was amazing. We rode hard. We looked good. There was not one of us that was out of place the whole time of this ride. And one thing I'll tell you before I tell the story here is when my bike mentors taught me how to ride, one of the things that they teach you when you're learning how to ride is how to draft off one another. So when you're biking, you're following one another, and your back tire and your front tire are typically very close to one another. Well, when I started, I was about 10 feet apart from the person in front of me, but over time I got to be where I could be about a foot away or so. And so when we were biking, we were drafting off of one another. That's why we went so fast, and that's why we came in first place, because we rode so well. But being team members, the team leader thought it would be really cool that at the end of the race, we all finished the race together. And so they had a photographer at the finish line. They were really excited. And as we were coming in, riding one by one after one another, the team leader shouted to us about a block before the finish line. They said, hey, everybody, we're going to get a picture of us finishing the race. So I want you to line up side by side. And so we started coming into the finish line single file, but eventually we started to come in like a V formation, kind of like the Mighty Ducks in that hockey movie. And as we started to come into the finish line, a couple things happened. Number one, the crowds that had been along the road started to get more and more. And as they started to get more and more people, what happened is it started to crowd the road. And not only that, but the finish line was not as wide as we thought it was. And so as we started to come in, we started to get closer and closer as the crowds got bigger and bigger, and we started coming up to the finish line. And as we started to approach the finish line, it was really loud of the crowd cheering, ringing their cowbells, screaming, and the announcer was excited because we were the first place team. And so he started going, "Ladies and gentlemen, look at this amazing bike crew. Look at the formation they're in." And he's just whooping up the crowd. And my team of mentors and coaches are very proud too because we're the first place team. We looked amazing. But then as we started to get closer and closer, I started to get a thing of claustrophobia or anxiety. I don't know what it was. But as we started to get closer and closer, my friend Walt lightly touched my knee with his knee. We were so close. And when he did that, all I can tell you to this day is it set off some sort of trigger, some sort of anxiety attack. And I started to panic. And instead of dropping back from the crowd to give myself more space, I decided to stick right in there. You know what happened? I started to lose my balance. And as I started to lose my balance, my weight shifted over to one of my all-time favorite mentors, Walt. And as I could feel my hand touching his side, we started to tip over. And Walt, I'll never forget the sound of his voice when he yelled at me, "Jen, what are you doing?" And all I could respond back was, "Walt, I'm so sorry." And as Walt started to have his weight shift over, I could hear Ross, one of my other favorite all-time mentors, yell to Walt, "Walt, what the hell are you doing?" And Walt's response was, "I don't know, Jen's doing it." One by one, you could hear the same question being asked, "What the hell are you doing?" And one by one they said, "I don't know, Jen's doing it." Pretty soon, bikes started clanging and clashing, and bodies started flying in the air. Pretty soon they started splattering on the ground amidst the tangle of bike parts. By the way, do you know who the only one to finish that race was? But that's the thing about living with short margins, short space between you and chaos. Oftentimes, we not only hurt ourselves in the process, but we hurt others around us. It may be very unintentional that we do it, but it happens. And it's so hard to see when you're in it.